important uh, mm, resource that we have got, which has been very little exploited, is the Buddhist heritage tourism. Now, Buddhist tourism has been defined in three aspects. One is that it is the footsteps of the Buddha, where the Buddha traveled and enlightenment and priest. Those are mostly in India, but large number of people are interested in that and from all these countries. But more than that, there are Buddhist culture heritage spread over all this region. Bangladesh and Thailand, all of these places have tremendous Buddhist. Now, this is an attraction for 500 odd million Buddhists in around the world, and I think river cruises could be a major activity for the tourists. Now, the mythology by in Sri Lanka, Nepal, and India, even in many ways.
Greetings, listeners, and welcome to our inaugural episode of our new podcast series, Reimagining the Bay of Bengal, presented by Asian Confluence, and I'm your host, Neeraj. And I'm excited to launch this series focused on the Bay of Bengal Centre. Asian Confluence has established the Centre of Bay of Bengal Studies in Shillong to promote research, dialogue, and collaboration on the region's shared future. This center aims to foster third space cooperation among stakeholders in the state and the nations of Bay of Bengal region. We have also published an inaugural souvenir to mark this milestone. So do check the link in the video description for more details. So in this particular episode, we are exploring, can tourism be an enabler for creating a stable Bay of Bengal community? So as always, we'll unpack this through 5 thought-provoking questions designed to spark clarity and inspire conversation. And we have joined today by Mr. Madan Prasad Bezbaruah, who is the chairman of the Governing Council at Asian Confluence, a retired officer, IAS officer, and a former secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. He serves as the honorary permanent representative of India to the UN World Tourism Organization and has extensive expertise in national and international tourism management, policy planning, and diplomacy. Mr. Bezbaruah has been a member of Northeastern Council, a consultant to organizations like ADB, UNWTO, and brings a unique insights from his role in economic diplomacy, including as a Minister Economic at the Indian High Commission in London. Mr. Bezbaruah, it's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you for your very kind introduction. And look forward to, because we had just started the Bay of Bengal Initiative Center, and we'll be delighted to launch it with a discussion on tourism.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, let's start with a very big picture. And we have seen that the tourism is often hailed as a powerful force for growth and connection. So just from your experience, sir, how do you assess the role of tourism as a driver of economic development and social connectivity, both globally and specifically within the Bay of Bengal region? Over to you, sir.
Well, in fact, the role of tourism was sometimes in a very limited sphere of earning foreign exchange only insofar as India was concerned. But globally, it's very heartening that last 10, 15 years, the role has been accepted as a very major contributor to economic development. For example, the growth of tourism has surpassed world economic growth continuously over the last 25, 30 years. And in India, for example, we had not realized the importance until it is very difficult actually to make an assessment of the contribution of tourism, because most of the tourism activities are not seen. World Travel and Tourism Council had indicated that there are at least 30 activities at the core of tourism, but we see only 4 and 5 only. And on those 4 or 5 also, like hotels, accommodation, transport, etc., you see the direct impact only. You don't see the ripple effect that comes down to the various sectors. Now, recently, after COVID, UN General Assembly, G20, all of them had special sessions on the importance of tourism in social and economic inclusive growth of communities and countries. And we know that it contributes 10% of the direct employment. It contributes 10% of the GDP. In some of the small island states, it is going up to 80 to 90%. Those are known figures. But the important contribution that tourism makes to the areas which are not normally accessed by infrastructure development or by manufacturing activities is very vital, because tourism can grow anywhere there is some resource which people are looking for. And it is vital for the women workforce. In tourism, as about 30% of the workforce globally is in, are women and youth. And the second important contribution is revival of old culture and cuisine, craft, which go along with tourism, because tourism, about 30% of the global tourists look upon shopping as a major activity on their travels. We can go on this, the impact, the happily in India. The Prime Minister has been our brand ambassador for tourism, and he has been talking again and again that tourism is a pillar of economic development, which is a very good thing. Now, let me say a little bit about how it can affect the Bay of Bengal region, because the Bay of Bengal region is particularly important because of the population it has got, about the immense size of population globally, and then also the level of poverty. Without going into the figures, we know that these are concerning areas for development. And there we have the resources which the world tourism is looking for. The present trend in the world is for sustainable tourism. After COVID, we have realized that the only way we can survive is by having sustainable tourism, and sustainable tourism based on nature, by wellness, on experiences. The world is looking for experiences, and what experiences this Bay of Bengal region countries can offer is very diverse. Each can supplement and complement the other. And so I think there is a tremendous possibility of using tourism for livelihood of the people in this region. Uh, I will stop at that, but I will like to be happy to expand on any of these issues if you like.
Sir, that's a very compelling overview, and it really shows that tourism's potential to bridge divides. So now, let us now look at how this can also evolve beyond the national borders. So there is also a growing talk about regional tourism that frames the transcend national and state boundaries. So how do you interpret this kind of a emerging trend, and what are the core pillars you think is a very essential for effective regional tourism cooperation?
Well, if you look at it, you will see the major tourism areas are, for example, you look at Europe. If you look at the Europe's, because they are the top of the whole global scenario, Germany, France, and all getting 50, 60 million tourists in a year. That shows that it is not really, it is primarily regional tourism, because Europe is so connected that they get most of the travelers from the region only, because people walking over or driving over to the other places, etc. That is the strength of Europe, which I call a regional tourism. But the ADB particularly has been doing quite a lot of studies about regional tourism. And I think there were 4 or 5 studies. I remember one in 2016 where they had indicated that there has been 13 regional collaboration during the last 50 years, and 6 sub-regional cooperation, all all had tourism as a major driver. If you look at those sub-regional regional cooperation initiatives, tourism was a primary activity there. Uh, you look at Greater Mekong sub-region, you look at BIMSTEC, SASEC, there was also a greater two-man initiative. These have been mentioned as areas. Even ASEAN has tourism as a major activity. During the meltdown, tourism had grown continuously during the last century, and 2001 and 2000 to 2001, new millennium, was the first time tourism had a setback. We had a continuous, 9/11 happened, SARS happened, then we had tsunami, and all this impact was that tourism went down. The World Tourism Organization figures show what propped up tourism or economic activities in those regions which were affected by this thing was regional tourism. During those periods, the regional tourism was the major driver of economic growth in these regions. And then if you look at the after COVID, international initial steps have been now to contain, subject to security and safety region. The people are looking mostly traveling all around and not going too far. And also the cost effect is also to be considered. The international travel cost, primarily for the middle class who are getting more income now, all over the Asian region. Asia today is the highest outbound tourism in the world, and the Asian tourist can be a source of, you know, mm, can be the source for regional tourism in the South Asia and Southeast Asia region. And that's why this is becoming very. What are the key drivers? I will like to say what regional tourism would depend on. Now, there are two things. Regional tourism will happen irrespective of whether we pilot it or not, because people will travel and they like to travel to places where there are some attractions. But if we want to have structured regional tourism with certain identified circuits and managed by as a regional tourism activity, then we need quite a few things. For example, you need connectivity. Most important would be those countries which want to have regional tourism organized must have good connectivity. And this second important thing would be facilitation. The most important thing is facilitation. I have seen how little small things like having a separate window for, say, those days we had BIMSTEC or SARC tourism. They had a separate window for checking in immigration. That helped quite a lot. And this sort of facilitation will go a long way. And then we'll need institutional linkages. And the institutional linkages means that the tourism organizations of different countries must collaborate and there must be some system of institutional discussions or getting together to see monitor how it is happening. And most important, of course, will be the commitment at the top that the countries which want to develop regional tourism, like the Bay of Bengal region, the policy at the top must give the direction that yes, we want to do it, and there should be some institutional arrangements for occasional monitoring and reviewing what is happening and how we can go about it.
So that's a very clear framework for the success in the regional tourism. And these pillars which you have mentioned, I think sound very foundational. And I also would like to know that how we can also, explore this kind of a regional tourism in the Bay of Bengal, and we have know that the Bay of Bengal region has a very immense untapped potential for such kind of a shared tourism initiative. So how can Bay of Bengal countries can also collaborate to advance these regional tourism. So, are there any kind of a specific policy initiatives or pilot projects that government and regional institution could also prioritize in the near term?
Well, there are many positives so far as Bay of Bengal region is concerned. We will need, of course, first to find common grounds for cooperation. And as I mentioned, that is the starting point. If we find those common grounds, then the benefits are accepted. Then we can go ahead and exploit in a formal manner. What are the positives? For example, we have geographical proximities. There are sometimes interdependence economically so much that we just cannot avoid it. Then the contiguity. In many cases, not only proximity, but there is a contiguity. As we know, in South Asia, these regions are contiguous. Bangladesh, India, and Nepal, Bhutan, and all that. We have this relationship. The other important factor is quite a large amount of cultural and historical affinity, and which binds this region also. And then we have common tourism resources, and coming to common, when we have diverse resources, when it is not common, I will come to the common resources which can exploit. But even if the resources are diverse, for example, rivers or mythology or something, we can complement each other. And in fact, I would like to mention that the Asian Development Bank had three studies on Sussex sub-regional tourism. And Sussex sub-regional tourism more or less overlaps the Bay of Bengal region. So what has been found there could be quite, they have prepared projects, and they have prepared how to go about it, how to do financing, how to organize the tourism. All these are in position. What we need today, if we decide to have regional tourism on Bay of Bengal, to first to find out those resources which are already available and take a decision and carry it forward. So I think a lot of groundwork has been done. I have been personally involved in all these three Sussex development projects, so I know. Coming back, I will say that common tourism resources. This is the tourism products of this region actually suits the new travelers what they are demanding. 70% of the new travelers today travel for sustainable, they make a sustainable audit of the places they are visiting. So if we provide that outreach for rivers, the nature, culture, which many of the sea and sand cannot provide. And that is what people are looking for. So we have the great advantage there. The most important resource that we have got, which has been very little exploited, is the Buddhist heritage tourism. Now, Buddhist tourism has been defined in three aspects. One is that it is the footsteps of the Buddha, where the Buddha traveled, and enlightenment and priest. Those are mostly in India, but large number of people are interested in that, and from all these countries. But more than that, there are Buddhist culture heritage spread over all this region. Bangladesh and Thailand, all of these places have tremendous Buddhist. Now, this is an attraction for 500 odd million Buddhists in around the world, and non-Buddhists also are looking for the Buddhist way of wellness. COVID has changed outlook of people to a large extent, and people are looking for wellness, spirituality, and in a great way. In fact, the revival of tourism in India has seen wellness and spiritual tourism as a major attractions. So these are areas which we can exploit and carry. The other thing which we can do, subject to, of course, geopolitics, unfortunately has not been very favorable at this moment, but we hope that geopolitics will change. And when they change, I think the people's aspirations, economic development becomes much more important than those considerations which are holding them up. If that happens, I think river cruises could be a major activity for the tourists. Now, the mythology by Sri Lanka, Nepal, and India, even in many ways. Now, from breeze between this tourism in Bay of Bengal region can be looked upon as a breeze between South Asia and Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia today is the largest outbound tourism, and Southeast Asia economic activities are happening. And Vietnam and other places are doing very good. GMS, Greater Mekong region, is a successful example of regional tourism. And so is also ASEAN and some other. Now, we can link up South Asian, our Bay of Bengal region, with Southeast Asia through tourism. And that can be a great potential for income generation.
So, that's really, these are the very practical ideas that really brings the vision to life. And it's very exciting to think about these near-term actions. And we know that the tourism has also played a very key role in integrating these regions elsewhere also. So I just want to ask you, are there any kind of examples from other regions where tourism has also supported regional integration, which could offer the lessons for the Bay of Bengal also?
Uh, mm, as I said, regional, Europe is a good example, though we don't call it a regional tourism as such, but Europe is a good example of doing together. For example, facilitation, visa facilitation and travel facilitation being in the major factor of European Union progressing so far in tourism. The other Greater Mekong sub-region is a good example. Greater Mekong sub-region has been a region which has been shown that it is not a tourism project as such. It is a much bigger regional cooperation initiative. And tourism is a major driving force for Greater Mekong sub-region development. What they have done there is that they have got a organizational structure. We don't have in this, Bay of Bengal region. We really don't have any organizational structure. Unfortunately, two or three initiatives which have been started. SARC, of course, has not been. We have a large number of regional initiatives in this region. It would be very, very important to see how all of them are happening today and whether there is a possibility of coordinating their activities instead of splitting all the attentions in different regional initiatives that we have today. Now, Greater Mekong region has that advantage because they have an organizational structure, and the organizational structure has continuous monitoring of the responsibilities given to different states. Now, each constituent part of the that initiative have been given certain responsibilities. Like in tourism, Vietnam is taking the lead, Laos, Vietnam, and others. Now they review those initiatives once in a while, and then there is a commitment at the highest level, the organizational body, which is represented by the national, representatives. Now, we have to perhaps when we think about mm, Bay of Bengal tourism, we'll have to look at what the ASEAN or GMS have done, as for example, and they have got strategic plans, which is a perspective plan for 10, 15 years, which says tourism, what will be done, how it will be done, and that first requirement for us is to decide that we will have a regional tourism in this region, which is useful for the people. Secondly, we decide on a strategic initiative, how we go about it, and then we decide on the institutional mechanism, what will be the institutions in different countries, for example, India, Sri Lanka, who are the people who would be piloting this thing and monitoring this thing, and then mechanism for coordination. Now we need a coordination also between all these activities.
Uh, these examples are truly inspiring and they highlight what's possible within the right approach. And now, coming to my last question, because you mentioned about the geopolitics also. And in today's world of geopolitical tension and instability, we have seen that the tourism's role takes on a very added significance. So, given this current global context, so how do you view the relationship between the tourism and geopolitics? And can tourism can also contribute to the stability or the trust building in such kind of a sensitive or contested region also?
Well, I have always felt. Uh, mm, I had quoted Mahatma Gandhi. Mm, he said his expression about tourism in those long back was very significant. He says, "Travel is the language of peace." Now, it comes from experience for thousands of years. Tourism has been in the DNA of human beings. People have traveled. Yeah, and every time we have a crisis, we know tourism will bounce back because people would travel and they would like to travel to different countries. Now, what has happened is that tourism uh, through travel is a very great vehicle for understanding among people. Now, people are who make the policies possible. And we know how travel has been influential, and travel, like Chinese travelers, accounts of India have been so important for Indian history and understanding. Mm, I think, so far as tourism is concerned, tourism can, movement of people into different regions can certainly create more understanding, but the problems of geopolitics today are far greater than what this understanding of people to people understanding can possibly solve. But it can make a contribution. The more important thing is ultimately the role of tourism is not so much in people traveling and giving foreign access, but primarily that it is an instrument of economic development everywhere. Economics, but ultimately economics will override all other considerations because people will have to look at their development, how the development is affected by various geopolitical conflicts, and people's urge will be to overcome them. I personally feel that imperceptible though the contribution of tourism will be to lessening tension, it certainly is a major uh, activity which will bring people together, and that can be the foundation on which understanding could be built. And that way, tourism has a role to play in lessening uh, tensions between countries and making, or if more positive way, making people understand the relationship better and helping in policy making.
Rightly
Thank
said,
you.
sir. And what an enlightening start to our series, Mr. Bezbaruah. Thank you so much for your insightful contribution on tourism's role in building a stable Bay of Bengal community. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, we hope this inaugural episode has sparked your interest in the Bay of Bengal's shared future. So just stay tuned for more discussions on the forces that shape this vital region. Thank you so much.